November 12th. This meeting will be broadcast to Channel 22 as well as live streamed and recorded to the MRSC YouTube channel. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 6:31. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 14th, 2024 MRSC meeting. Does anyone have any questions on the minutes?
Just one, not question, but just a typo.
Oh, certainly, please.
Just very minor, but it's section E, number 6, and it just needing to spell Jessica Rogers, Jessica, rather than Jessia. So section
When I
E,
put my eyes upon it, I will.
section E, number 6.
Oh, I see it. Yes, Jesse.
And that's
Thank
it.
you.
Not earth shaking, but
Good to get corrected.
necessary to get done.
Good eyes, Brad.
Yes.
Excellent. Do we need to go back to get fixed approval? No. It's
Grammar and short have to be used.
Any other questions? No? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
Next on our agenda is public comment. Do we have anybody here for public comment tonight? Okay. When you come to the podium, please give us your name and your address.
Oh, actually, I apologize. They're on the agenda and not public comment. Westgate? Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Anyone here for public comment?
Yes, sorry. Just want to make sure you're in the right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
We'll move right along. Reports and discussions, Westgate Fund recipients.
I'm Michael Westgate, co-chair of the Westgate Committee. Normally what I've done is tell you which grants we've presented, we've approved, and given you a synopsis. This time we've got the actual teachers here, and they can present much better than I could what they have done rather than me saying what they're going to do. So just briefly, Megan Smith and Paulina Linnell are here is the 2024 Westgate Fellows. John Dixon was 2023. Elaine Kutowski we approved, but her program was canceled. We're holding funds available for her for one more year. Otherwise, we'll de-obligate those funds, if you will. Most important thing I want to mention today is deadlines upcoming. October 17th for the fall round and March 6th for the spring round. So both applicants this time were in the fall round, so we definitely want to continue that. Obviously it's short notice, so if people don't have already made their plans, they better start soon. Anyway, Julie's available for financial report. Julie Dykens, also with me is Ann Westgate, another committee member. Julie, you want to give your report?
Good evening. I'm the treasurer of the Westgate Foundation, and a very simple and brief report of our principal account has $139,334 in it, and our expendable fund has $22,900 in an unrestricted balance. Should I say more, Michael?
I don't. If there's questions for Julie.
Madam Chair, before we bring our teachers up, first of all, thank you for your great work. I'm happy to serve with all of you as your liaison. Would you mind just maybe a quick sound bite? We've got new school committee members sitting around the table. Could you tell us about the Westgate Foundation? What do you do? If you don't, just a real quick blurb.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure. My father was on the school committee for 12 years, ending in 1984. When he died in 1988, friends said, what can we do in his memory? And started a fund to provide teachers with the opportunity to broaden their horizons and the horizons of their students. So the principal has grown over the years. The principal does not get touched at any administrative costs. They're borne by members of the committee. The town of Chatham manages the funds, again at no cost, so any donations go 100% to teachers. So anybody listening out there on the Ethernet, please feel free to go to westgatefund.org and follow the prompts.
Thank you.
John Dixon, by the way, did a great video. If you have 45 minutes sometime, go to the website and click on his video. So I'd like to introduce Megan Smith. She is right behind me.
Yeah.
She probably doesn't need an introduction, but go ahead, Megan.
Thank you very much. Hi, Megan Smith. I am a kindergarten teacher at Harwich Elementary School. So I'm going to try to do this without revealing my true age and details like that, but when I was in college a long time ago, there was this huge movement in the education field, and everybody in early childhood education knew about the Reggio Emilia approach. It was the way to teach children. It's kind of along the same lines as Montessori and that kind of idea. But that was the cloud of education that I was learning within. And so that kind of stuck in my brain. And again, without disclosing how many years ago that was, I have grown up and it's always been in my head. Reggio Emilia is the place to learn about how to teach young children. And so I've been working at Harwich Elementary. I managed to achieve professional status, and I promised the day after I achieved professional status, I started filling out my application for the opportunity to visit Reggio Emilia, Italy. It's actually a town in Italy, excuse me, called Reggio Emilia. And I'm not going to go into too many details here because we're in a time crunch, but also I will be presenting at our staff meeting on October 16th. And I think Dr. Catone will say it's okay if I say the school committee members are invited, because usually the first 2 rows of staff meeting are empty anyways. So feel free to come and fill up those front rows. October 16th, I'll be presenting with more detail about what I saw and what I experienced. But to be able to go to Italy and to the city and see the culture and the environments that these children are being taught in. They've achieved over a 90% enrollment rate for their preschool children, and it's amazing. So I am so incredibly grateful that I was accepted for the Westgate Fund for this past year. And again, as Ms. Westgate said, I applied in October, and I got in on that fall application, and I was able to travel in May I tried to go in April during April vacation with the American group. That one actually filled up the day that I got approved. And so I went home to buy the ticket and they said it's sold out. And I got in with a Canadian group. So I went in May with a Canadian group and it was just amazing. It was an amazing experience and I'm still processing it. But I am happy to share that information with anyone who wants to join us in those first 2 rows at our staff meeting in October. So thank you again. I'm so incredibly grateful for that opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan. Betty?
Oh, question.
Oh, Megan.
I'm sorry. Oh, I didn't foresee that. Sorry. Go ahead.
What time's the meeting?
It usually starts around, what time? 2:30. 2:30, yes. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, any other questions? Okay.
I neglected to mention that over the years, about $150,000 has been given out to about 70 teachers, as to the power of interest over the years. So next is Pauline Linnell.
Thank you. Good evening, Pauline Linnell. I'm a French teacher at the high school. So I'm very grateful also to have been chosen as the recipient from the Westgate Foundation. I had an incredible luck. I took a 2-week tour of Morocco on a specialized tour for educators. And it was an eye-opener in so many ways. You know, I'm, obviously you can hear it in my accent, I'm from France, and I teach a lot of French things that are related to French culture. But there is something called the Francophone culture, which is beyond the borders of France. And Northern Africa is obviously a big part of it because of their history and, because they were colonized by the French for hundreds of years. So it was a real eye-opener. I'm really grateful, like I said. I'm going to encourage my colleagues next year to apply as well because, it helps a lot on the teacher's budget, I have to say. And it was an incredible experience, and I will convey all my newfound knowledge and all my pictures and my videos to my students in the classroom. I had in my mind before I left the vague idea that I would say, let's bring a group of Monomoy students to Morocco. I don't think we're ready. Quite frankly, I think it's Northern Africa, it's a different world, and for safety reasons, I think it would be a big step. I mean, a lot of, responsibility. But that being said, I felt, like I said, there's a big gap between America and Northern Africa in terms of safety and standards and all that. But, the day-to-day life is very different. But it was just an incredible trip, and I'm very thankful and very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. I looked at this time. Okay, thank you, everyone. That was amazing. And thank you for all that you're doing for our teachers. That's appreciated. On to the next item. The AP government trip is being moved to our next meeting. So we'll move forward to the school improvement plan, Harwich Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. Christy Catone, principal of Harwich Elementary. It's great to see everyone tonight. Thank you for having me. Our school year has gotten off to a great start. I would just like to lead by saying that, and thank you so much for your support in getting us to where we are. Right now, we finished day 8 today. It was we've had a great 2 weeks. So, our school improvement plan, which you probably saw in your packet, is aligned with the strategic plan that we just created this past year. I was really fortunate to be a part of that planning group, so it seemed perfect that I could rewrite our school improvement plan to coordinate with that strategic plan. So we have the same 3 strategic objectives: the portrait of a graduate implementation, learning and academics, and also being and wellness. Our mission aligns with the district's strategic plan, and our vision does as well. So our first focus area is the portrait of a graduate implementation, and we, as a district, are going to be creating a portrait of a graduate implementation team, and we'll work with that team over the next years of this plan to make sure that our curricular resources are incorporating all of the skills and attributes that we identified in the portrait of the graduate work, and make sure that we're aligning that and helping teachers to understand how they can tie the two together. We will be ensuring that the competencies are integrated into our assessments and into lesson planning. We're going to be working with Lisa Westman, who worked with the middle school and high school already, and that work is going to begin at the elementary level in math. We're going to be identifying the standards, the key standards that we're focusing on, looking for clarity around those standards, and developing common assessments for our teachers to use. And again, in that work, we'll be keeping the portrait of the graduate work in mind so that we can make sure that we align across. And we'll do that with all of the areas of the curriculum after math with Lisa Westman, but that math will be the first area of focus. We also will be looking at our professional development and community engagement opportunities, also to bring in the Portrait of a Graduate skills and attributes. And then finally, the student recognition systems. And those right now are like our PBIS, when we award students with stickers and bubbles in their classrooms, and their reading points that they get for their outside reading. All of those things we want to take a look at and make sure that we're aligning what we are rewarding our students for, and tie those back to the Portrait of a Graduate attributes that we're hoping to see and build in our students. And the second focus area is learning and academics, and we've been talking to you all about that, since I've been here, that we're really focused on our Tier 1 instruction, as well as Tiers 2 and 3. So if you remember, the Tier 1 is what every child receives in the classroom every single day, and Tiers 2 and 3 are when we need interventions and acceleration points for other students who are in need of something different. So we'll be focusing on new curriculum or curricular materials in reading. We are incorporating UFly, and that's just rolling out this year in kindergarten through second, and it's for developmental phonics skills. So that's going to be rolled out right now, and we'll continue that work. We're working with Hill for Reading as we roll that out and aligning it with ARC to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students to the best of our ability. We're also continuing our work with guided math, which we talked to you about over the last 2 years as well with Allison Mello. We are going to have a focus on civic engagement and real world learning. We've already got a lot of those things tied into our All-Shark meetings and project service projects that we do at Harwich Elementary, but there certainly is opportunities for us to expand that. And we're adding at the elementary level across Chatham and Harwich the Botland life skills curricular materials that are going to be offered to our 3rd and 4th graders to help them make healthy life choices. So that's a part of that too. And also we're focusing on differentiation, as I said before, with both intervention and acceleration. We are working to utilize our unified arts teachers in some of that acceleration work. We're really excited about that. There are so many great things going on. With the differentiation, we also are using Analytic View, which is another thing that's rolled out in the district this year, and that's going to help us to just have better access to data so that we are being really responsive to the data for every single child in both academics and social emotional learning. And then the final focus area is being and wellness in the strategic plan and in our school improvement plan. As I mentioned, the BOTVN, we're also continuing to use CELUS and SSIS to assess our students in terms of well-being and how they are functioning socially and emotionally. We are going to be continuing our work again with our All-Shark meetings and PBIS, and let's see if there's anything else. And obviously the caregiver and family involvement will continue to be a focus. Something that we're always thinking about how we can offer more to our families and caregivers and get them more involved. And we're really excited right now as we're planning our curriculum nights that we're changing the format a little bit to invite children to come with their grown-ups this year and come have dinner and go to the classroom with their parents and actually show their parents their classrooms. We're hoping that that will help families to make better connections with each other, and so we're excited about trying something new in that. There are measures of success at the end of each of those areas. So we are really looking forward to seeing more success and less absenteeism, more healthy, happy kids who know and feel like they belong at Harwich Elementary and who are being successful and being challenged and supported and just really flourishing. So I know that was quick. Do you have questions for us at Harwich Elementary? Yes, sir.
Question. Very, very thorough, comprehensive. Just a question just in terms of measurement. Some of these measurements are very quantitative, in terms of being able to take a look at a decrease in absenteeism or suspension. But I'm just taking a look at it, and how do you go about measuring, for instance, in the third section of being in wellness, how do you measure the increase in student perception of school culture and climate? How do you measure
That comes through the CELUS in third and fourth grades, when there are pointed questions for students to answer about how they feel about school. Do they have a trusted adult to go to? Do they feel supported? Are they able to ask for help when they encounter a difficult problem or a challenge at school? Those kinds of things.
Okay, great.
And the analytic view is going to help us to see that data over time, so we'll be able to see how they answered those questions in third grade, and then also again in fourth grade at multiple points during the year, so we can see, how their feelings about school are changing and respond to those. We were meeting with our counseling team today to talk about being sure that we're using that data to respond to needs that are identified in that data.
Just one other, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sure. Go ahead.
Just one other question. What, out of all the areas, what is the most critical, do you feel at Harwich Elementary for all the objectives and all the specific tasks? What would be the most critical one that you would look at this year? And why?
I would say that it's our multi-tiered systems of support, which we're looking at as a district. We're doing that in all of our academic areas and in our social emotional learning, making sure that we have processes in place so we don't miss any student or any important piece of data, that we're really offering to every student intervention that they need, acceleration opportunities that they need, and really solid Tier 1 instruction. So that's my big focus.
Thank you.
And I think if we're doing that, everyone will feel like they belong and they will be successful.
Mr. Clark?
So the stickers and the bubbles, they
Yes.
work.
I
When they come home with a sticker, they feel like they had a great day. They did something.
Yes.
So it's working.
know. Thank you, thank you.
Little as it seems, it makes a difference when
No.
they get home. So,
Agreed.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you all so
Appreciate
much
it.
for everything that you do. Thank you. Have a good evening.
And the middle school.
Which one of these am I talking? Okay. So many microphones. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Abby Dudley, proud principal of Monomoy Middle School. I am really excited to present our school improvement plan, but I also have to say that the experience of sitting down and taking all the things that we've been working on, taking all the things that we've decided on as a district level and putting it down into thought, this experience was very exciting and engaging and intellectually stimulating for me. So I hope you'll find some of our thoughts and ideas stimulating as well. So on your cover page of ours, I just want to draw the attention to the MRMS mission. So at Monomoy Middle School, we talk a lot about being able to provide our kids with an array of opportunities because this age is so unique, where they're kind of stuck between, that sheer childhood and then as they're becoming adults more in the high school. But the middle school is sorry to tell Christy, but the best age to work with, because the kids are so curious about different things, and it is that time where they're finding their strengths and weaknesses. So that just continues to be our mission at the middle school. On your second page, and what you see projected before you is the entire document at a glance. So the way this is organized is it's organized into 3 big goal buckets. So one being the whole student, that's our culture climate initiatives, our instructional focus, and then community and communication. So when you have a position where you're thinking about things on this broad level and then at this granular level constantly throughout the day, it gets a little difficult to fit some things neatly into the categories, but if I did things correctly, what I'm hoping you'll see is the crossover between some of these ideas that I'll talk about. The big one is this idea of kids being able to access their education, right? Providing access, which seems like that would be sheerly an instructional goal, but I bring it up because it's an example of the whole student goal too, and this idea, it's so connected to belonging. If I am a child and I feel as though I can access the work that's in front of me, that not only meets our instructional focus, but it also meets that whole student and that belonging focus. So I'm going to walk through a couple of the more exciting initiatives on each of the bucket areas. So starting with whole student, if you remember last year, our school motto was all around belonging. So we're continuing that focus and really looking at, in this age of being in the middle, where we can increase our kids' feelings of autonomy and ownership in their education. Those things are so important for the kids to start to see themselves as owners of their education. It increases investment rather than their education is something that is being done to them. So we really want to build that in our student body. So the way we'll be doing that is through implementing a new student recognition system. Ms. Catone talked about that being tied to the portrait of a graduate. So connecting it to work that they're doing around recognition at the high school. We're hoping to bring that down to the middle school. Something else exciting that we implemented this year, so we piloted a Pathways program for our 7th grade students where one of their unified arts class became a choice class. So they were able to choose between a STEM pathway, a music pathway, and then a language pathway. So students forecasted in the fall, and we were able to place them into those 3 pathways in the spring, right, with the idea that they're starting to develop these areas of interest, but they also feel like they have a say in what they're learning about. So 2 weeks in, the rollout seems smooth. I checked in with the team today. Some other components around belonging are making use of the CELIS, which is the social emotional learning survey that Dr. Catone talked about, and being really careful about how we're analyzing that and using that data to provide support. And then, of course, you'll see in this section this idea of access not just being an academic component, but being crucial to student belonging. Second bucket under whole student is the proactive side of supporting students and some direct teaching. So we're trying to target initiatives that promote kindness, wellness, clear expectations for a supportive and safe environment. So one component that we've talked about as a group is the restorative model with clear processes. So we're already seeing an impact with our new position in the school and really developing all of our processes for conduct, but also looking at it from the proactive component. So that's been exciting. Something we're really proud to go into in year 2 is we have a student ambassador program. So this is a program open to 6th and 7th graders. It's a smaller group. Last year I had just under 20. And it's students who are assessing the larger student culture and climate, and then we come together and we develop ideas for how to build that. So out of that program last year, we decided as a group, myself, I run it along with the students, that we were going to use our group to actually do the anti-bullying lessons that we do with students that have typically been run by teachers, but based on the feedback from the kids was, no offense, Mrs. Dudley, but they'll listen to us. So we'll be going into classrooms, pushing in to hit every classroom in the building. Our goal is to do it 3 times a year for that anti-bullying lesson. Other events that we're looking to create are more school-wide events, so any workshops, town halls. We already have student assemblies, but not losing those moments for the whole building to be together. 2 more things I'll highlight in this section is our advisory program, which we've ran since 2020 upon my arrival. But we have been really working to revise that advisory program. We shifted the time and space where that would be this year. So we moved it from every other week on the Wednesday that's not early release, which felt really infrequent, to every Monday morning. And we've relabeled it as anchor blocks. So the idea is that these small groups of students are coming together with their advisor and their peers Monday morning every week to kind of start the week, anchor, if you will, the week. The other thing that I want to highlight here is our executive functioning work. So together as a staff last year, we created an executive functioning progression, knowing that the difference between a 10-year-old at the beginning of 5th grade and then a student getting ready to depart to the high school, those executive functioning needs are pretty vast within the age range that we serve at the school. So what we did was we created a progression so that helps the teachers focus on what sort of executive functioning is appropriate for the 5th grade, 6th grade, and 7th grade and how they'll move through. Our second goal area is the instructional goal. So we're working towards being a flexible and adaptable learning organization that uses data and analysis for continuous improvement. So the buckets here will sound similar to Harwich Elementary School, but our first one is around the multi-tiered systems of support with an emphasis on that strong tier 1, that education that everyone receives, and then with clear processes for intervening with students at the tier 2 and the tier 3 level. At the middle school, we're really fortunate in that we've always had structures in place for intervention, so we're not totally designing something new, but we're more shoring up and making sure that the systems and processes that we're using have impact on student learning, and then using the data around that. Under this bucket, we want to also focus on that strong tier 1 instruction. So within our instructional focus is integrating differentiation, which we have been doing at the middle school for 3 years now, but continuing our differentiation work. And then we're going to be bringing in the universal design for learning framework to be able to meet the needs of the kids in that tier 1 setting. Within that, I mean, you'll see this over and over and over. I actually thought about even putting my school improvement plan into a Wordle, and my guess is the word access would probably pop up the most. But within that tier 1 setting, it is so important for children to be able to access material that's put in front of them, but also to be provided with material that is at grade level and that are grounded in the state standards. So we believe that all children can achieve at grade level, and what they need to support them to get there might look a little bit different, but that everyone in our classrooms are entitled to access to grade level and in the state standards. You'll see an item about high-quality instructional materials, so that is extremely important in kind of this mission to provide students with that access. So we are going to be working with district systems to go through a review of our curriculum materials to make sure that they are grade level and high quality. So you heard me talk about differentiated instruction. And then the last item in this section is around the process for identifying, differentiating, and then accelerating students with higher academic abilities. Sometimes we get lost in the students who are on like the lower end of access, but we're losing a whole component of our population that is ready for more. And so we, myself, as well as my colleagues, think that that is extremely important to focus on as we move through. The last component of the instructional goal is through our teams in our PLCs. So we're really looking on how the staff is collaborating to make sure that we're using our teams to push a lot of these initiatives forward. This is something that I feel really proud about since my time at the middle school, is that we have been able to really clearly establish teams, but go beyond that, and we've become a much more collaborative culture. Teachers are always welcoming other people in to see what they're doing, to try new strategies, and that can be really uncomfortable for some educators, but the more we've done that and the more people have access to others' classrooms, we're seeing more and more the drive to bring people in or to visit other people's rooms. The last bucket would be around the community and communications. So this piece is extremely important at the middle school, in that when I speak to families and caregivers and stakeholders, sometimes people feel confused about the role of that caregiver at the middle school level. Does the middle school want us to come in? Do they not? Are we supposed to make them independent? And the way that we conceive of it is that the families are invested in the students' learning, and the students are almost a product of that investment from the family. So we want to create some mechanisms for more opportunities for people to come into the building, because we're showcasing the children who these people have raised, right? We're showcasing their work. So it's not just something we can be proud of, the kids, but we hope that the families would share in that sense of pride. So within community and communication, you'll see two main areas. So one is around just access to information. So if any parents in the group use Aspen, it can be clunky, it can be hard to use. So we really want to work with streamlining the practices on our end so that we can message out and support families with being able to use Aspen to its full capacity on their end. So that is a big component to that. Another piece that we're working on is within the teacher teams to create some clarity around assignments and things like that. So we'll often get, I don't know what my child has to do for homework, so we're working on creating transparent systems so that families would be able to access that straight from home. It's happening already in pockets of the building, but we are hoping to build that out school-wide. And then the last piece is what I talked about with bringing families in for community events. So a couple things we're excited about is we're reestablishing a school store by filling the stipend. We've actually checked that part is done. And then we are really hoping that families and caregivers will come in to help run the student store. We're working on organizing student showcases to invite families in, and then another piece is looking at our communication out and make sure that that is accessible to all of our families. The last piece, actually I'll highlight the last two pieces. We are also working on redesigning our end of the year celebration this year to make sure that we are more inclusive. So we're looking, instead of doing one event at the end of the year, to spread that throughout the trimesters so that we're able to recognize a wider portion of the student body. And then our final component on here is around the middle school athletic program. So we want to work with Ms. Gilmet and her department on increasing support for coaches. Coaching middle school kids can be challenging, so supporting them with that, and then just creating more ease around accessing the logistics, making sure the communication around athletics is consistent and reliable. And then the last component is the registration system. We have seen with a couple families is the barrier to the child being able to access the sports. So we're really trying to work with the athletic department to increase the ease and assistance around sheerly signing up for athletics. That's it. Easy.
Questions? Very good.
Any questions?
Mr. Schiff?
A question, Abby, again, very thorough and terrific plan. I mean, you said at the beginning that you really enjoyed working on this and you found it so stimulating. I'd like to know is what was the best part of it of working on the entire exercise of this, and what would you disseminate to the rest of the faculty and to students from it, from just the experience of working on it, not anything to do with the content?
So the most exciting thing about working on it was just seeing how the different elements echoed each other and like kind of synthesized into one. So as last year rolled out, I had a document and I kept putting things in there, and then by the summertime I had a list. But as I worked my way through this, I'm thinking, how am I going to make this into something that makes sense for other people? But the more and more I worked through it, of like these things are talking to each other, and that just makes me feel really confident about putting all the work together. So when you see it all together, you can see how we're really beginning to drive some of our initiatives.
Okay.
The middle school beach party is next Friday. Fire
See you there.
department, police departments are cooking, so make sure all the kids and families know they're all welcome. The more the merrier.
Thank you.
Going down
Objective 3, check.
Yeah, community events.
Missy Bratlow?
Hi. Under instructional goals, under wanting to have a strong tier 1, you were talking about differentiation and universal design to meeting the needs, and you specifically talked about identifying a system to process, identify, and differentiate for students with high academic abilities, which kind of caught my eye because I feel like we do have a lot in place to identify students on the ladder, but it's important to identify those that we can push a little bit more for academic success. And my question to you is that a lot of my observation has been it's that middle group sometimes that gets lost. We have strong tools to identify a lower group, strong tools to support and identify a higher group, or at least I thought so. But that middle area, are they in that academic? Are they in that students with high academic abilities section, or am I identifying another group that probably need to have some type of focus on them to, hey, I'm just hanging here, I'm getting by, I'm just functioning.
Yeah.
That's that group that I'm like, push them, give them exposure, give them something that diversifies what drives them.
Yep. So the group that you're describing is within, that's that strong tier 1 instruction, right? That is available to everyone, but if we are doing our job correctly, if we have strong tier 1 instruction, it will hit that group. It will help them learn, but it should also get them engaged and excited. So when I talk specifically about those students with higher academic abilities, so I agree with you in that we do have excellent systems for identifying who those kids are. We use language like our blue, there are blue, right? In MCAS, the report comes out as blue. In MAP, our measures of academic progress, our benchmark testing, those students come out in blue. I think that's where we're stalled, and then what do we do with the blue? So there's this somewhat tragic data trend that we see at the middle school where in the 5th grade, the number of students in the blue is quite large, and it stays large, but over time, it slightly goes down. So the kind of the theoretical component behind that is that perhaps these students aren't receiving the push that they need to continue to make growth, right, to stay in the blue. So we are looking, right, we can identify them, but now it's looking at what can we do within, it all fits within differentiation, it all fits within MTSS, it all fits within UDL, but how can we be really careful and intentional about targeting those students within the tier one, like without having to pull people out and provide them with something different. But I really do believe that all these kids should have access to this within the tier one.
So these aren't just students that are testing well. You have a way to pull that, to extrapolate that out, because if they're in the blue, that could just be students that test well, and then you're like, okay, I've identified you.
Right.
And now it's like you don't really care about the subject, so does it go blue then yellow? Or green?
I mean, it
Blue then
depends on the
green? Yeah, it
magic
depends on the magic,
group.
exactly.
Green.
So then they're in that middle area, and maybe I'm not testing well anymore, but I don't really care, but I'm really smart.
Yep.
But I'm just sailing by. You can identify that group and then lift them.
Right.
Okay.
And that's why we have, like, when you look at sources of student data, right, it doesn't just rely on the testing. So my sister, for example, who's brilliant, never tested well. She would have never been flagged into the blue, but she is absolutely creative and brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's why we're using the multiple benchmarks. But we also, at the middle school, we have what we call team meeting, where our administrators go and meet with a different group of team teachers. So today we met with 6th grade Strong Island, and that is kid talk. So we're talking through students. So from that teacher lens and through those meetings, we're able to identify other students that perhaps don't test well, right, but that are ready for some academic push, and then using flexible groupings to be able to provide students with more support.
That's excellent, thank you. And I did have one more question. Your last topic about increasing support for the Monomoy Regional Middle School athletic programs, I couldn't agree with you more. It is very apparent from a parent's eyes and from the public's eye that we have a very dysfunctional middle school athletic program, I would say. I mean, maybe dysfunctional is a little bit harsh, but it's rough. It's every year, it's trying to find coaches, it's having enough kids to support a team, it's too many kids to have on a team, it's 8th grades up here, you know, we've got too many kids, should 7th and 8th be together, you know, it's all the things. 5th and 6th should have something, because then they don't get to play. It's a mess. Yeah. So I love that this is part of your goals, and I think that it definitely moves forward with us needing to really pay attention to the middle school and their athletic programs, because they're just as important as what's happening in the high school. It's your grassroots, it's your growth, it's your development, and we all know how important organized sports can be in the development of a child, physical, you know, everything. So I really love that piece. I'm happy to hear it from the principal, because I think the parents are saying it, the community is saying it, but to have the principal acknowledge that it's an area of weakness for the school, and I know you don't really have a lot of control over it necessarily, it makes me happy. So I can answer the question out in public when they say, oh, and I'm like, it's on the principal's radar, like, she's working on it, she's gonna work with the athletic director and do, you know, it's obviously not it's not a high priority because we're an educational institution, but it's very valuable and important, and it's one of the top things I hear about the middle school, so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Anderson?
She's still a little bit of my thunder. I was just excited about thinking about those kids up at the top, and what are we going to do for them to keep them moving and to keep them in the blue, if you will.
Yep.
So thank you for doing that.
She told me to say.
Ms. King?
Just have a question. First of all, I love in a couple of these boxes seeing multilingual teachers. I love that. And I was wondering over where it says Aspen and Google Classroom, are those, I hope maybe, parents who may not speak English, or if English is not their first language, is that translated where they can see it at home and know what they're doing and how to help their students?
Right. So I would say that is part of the issue that we need to
Okay.
look at. So on a very basic level, where we're starting is language, access to language. luckily, Miss Jordan over here is very also, one, passionate about it, but also technologically savvy about ensuring that, like, for example, my newsletter gets pushed out to families in their home language. But trying to remove the language barrier is kind of the first level that we're looking at, but also ensuring that our systems are a little more culturally responsive as well, and that goes beyond language diversity.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thank you, have a great night.
Thanks, Abby. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is the discussion of role involvement of the MRSC representatives and liaisons. One of the things that we had started to lightly touch at our last meeting was whether or not we wanted to have a little bit more of a presence at some of the town meetings, the select boards. Our liaisons are really more of a one-touch, bringing the information back and forth. So just kind of putting it out there, is anyone interested in looking at that and kind of, I don't want to say upping the role, but maybe showing up at a select board meeting once a quarter, once every 6 months, public comment, where we would give an update, or someone here would give an update just on the good stuff that's been happening outside of, we go in and we do budget reports and things like that. Do we want to give this role just a little bit more meat, if you will, and make it more of a representative, not adding a lot onto it? And this is just ideas to throw out there to kind of get the conversation started, because there had been some conversation earlier about creating more of those partnerships, more fluidity with some of the town departments. So does anyone have any thoughts? Want to think about it? Don't care.
I think it's a great idea to give the select board, I think that's part of communicating, just going back to one of our goals this year too, in terms of bringing up the whole profile of what's been accomplished, and not just over the past 10 years, but certainly, going forward here. And obviously with the select board, who's, generally going to get a good viewership and could have a good attendance as well. And I think that's, on a quarterly basis, a great way to be able to raise a profile of what's being accomplished in the school district. Otherwise, again, there's so many people that are, if they don't have children, a lot of people in Chatham and Harwich don't, in the school district, they aren't necessarily going to be finding out about this at all. They don't have any kids who are bringing home and telling them about what happened at school today. And that can have an impact when it's time to vote on issues that affect the school district in the respective towns. So it seemed that if we're able to bring that on, at least on a quarterly basis, and all the good things that are happening, that can have certainly have an impact when it's time for town meetings on a vote, when it's necessary for an article having to do with some kind of funding for the school district.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything? Meredith?
Just a thought, I think that some of the conversations that we had with the select boards last year and the FinCom came too, to some of them. Just keeping that communication, strengthening the communication would be great. So I think anything that we can do to kind of, maybe not put a ton on our plate, but I like the, once a quarter maybe, right, to make that connection a little bit stronger than just showing up sometimes.
Thank you.
I'm wondering too, with Channel 18, I don't know with the viewership, but I didn't even, do they have a main show? Joy, do you know if we, just wondering if we can be interviewed, can somebody,
Joy Jordan, Community Engagement Coordinator. Yes, they don't have a show, but the program manager there is very flexible. If we came to her and wanted to do a regular show, she and I have bounced some ideas off in the past. So that is definitely something we can arrange. It can be, the same person every time. You could rotate through. I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it if there's the motivation to move that forward.
I love this idea because there were a couple of things when we were doing the elementary school. You and I and Michael went and we were on Channel 18 and yeah, I like that idea a lot actually. And to just promote our regular show or whatever we decide to do. But I like that a lot.
Can I ask what that means? Like who was interviewing you? What like show? Like what was?
So the program director there, she's really flexible, like they have people on staff that could serve as the interviewer. It could be a sort of not in an interview format, just speaking to the camera, talking about what's going on. Scott could interview you, I could interview you, you could interview, there's lots of different ways that it could be done. She's pretty flexible on how the folks want to use it.
And one more thing, voter information committee, I think that's where we did, it was during budget season where we would go and have this conversation with the town administrator and the FinCom chair and have a dialogue.
Yes, so the voter information committee does only work on sort of town election-related specific issues, so more frequent updates just about happenings and activities wouldn't really fall under their purview.
Yeah, but that's what we did. It went through the voter information. That was more budget related.
Yes, a specific vote-related issue they would help facilitate, but other things, I'm sure we could figure something out if somebody was willing to kind of be the face and the voice.
And the other quick thing, because I know in Harwich we have these Facebook groups, so that gives us a video that we can drop into Facebook. Hey, so it's a promotional thing because that is a group that comes to the town meetings. So yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to do this. Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments, thoughts? Thank you very much. All right. We are moving on to subcommittee representative and liaison reports. The policy subcommittee report.
Madam Chair, we do not have an update at this time.
Thank you very much. And the superintendent evaluation subcommittee report.
Yeah, I can do it. We met last week for our first meeting, and we voted in Jessica Rogers as our chair, and she's not able to attend tonight, but we basically set up, we explained to some of our new members how the evaluation works. We did a quick first review and preview of goals that Dr. Carpenter had put together. We worked as a subcommittee to develop those goals and ask some questions, and then had asked the superintendent to come back to the committee with the goals more developed based on our comments and conversation. And then also we were going to be going over our timeline as to how we're going to proceed for the school year to make sure we stay on track for our evaluation, getting the goals to the committee as a whole to preview and then vote, and then making sure that we're checking in with Dr. Carpenter about halfway through the year on status of the goals, reporting out on that for the school committee, and then being in time to present and prepare the evaluation for the superintendent in May, I believe. So that is the report. Does anyone have anything to add? Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to the superintendent's report.
Couple acknowledgements and thanks. First of all, I think since last the committee met, we have launched a new school year. I greatly appreciate Brad went and came and represented the school committee and gave the opening remarks at convocation this year and did a great job. And if I look back over my years as a superintendent, I think one of the most challenging things as you're starting up the new school year is transportation. And I have to really give Faith Rushnick, our transportation coordinator, a lot of kudos, because this may have been the smoothest year ever in terms of just us launching with transportation. I know years ago it used to be phone calls after phone calls after phone calls for the first few weeks of school, and I think a lot of credit goes out to Faith with She worked on really surveying all families, who needs a bus, who needs a bus stop. If the families didn't respond, that they just didn't respond to that initial, calls were made home so that we had a really good feel for what the ridership was. So there's a lot of work that went into it, but really appreciate that, and I've let Faith know that personally. So we had a great first day of school, and then the second day of school was sort of followed by, the somber news of what happened at Appalachia High School in Georgia. It's like, as a superintendent, I'm also getting tired of sort of coming to the committee and sort of reporting out just the sad news of what's happened elsewhere. But I wanted to also sort of give a little safety report and update at our convocation. And in my opening comments to staff was just a piece of that was just a reminder that that we are what we refer to here as our run, hide, fight district, where we train our staff, and we actually train our students. We go through drills that are age-appropriate drills at each of the, at the elementary schools, middle school, and high school, and train them on how to go and navigate crises and just hope that isn't us. I also just reminded staff that we are also a Crisis Go district, so that all of our staff have on their phones Crisis Go, which, so when it's activated and every staff member knows that they are empowered to initiate an alarm if there's a concern, that it's a tool that we can use to communicate. We can go and account for students and staff, but one of the things that was in the news after the shooting in Appalachia is that their staff had things that they dangled on their necks, that if they pressed 8 times, an alarm would go off. We have that same technology, but it's on everybody's phones, but they can initiate that alarm, and that app allows us to go and have that two-way communication with our staff during this. All the buildings, I guess Chatham Elementary will be the last one to have the first drill of the year, but we start every year with drills on the front end as we get into the next week and a half. We'll actually have run, hide, fight drills in each of the buildings, and we work with public safety, particularly at the elementary level, to sort of help support an understanding of what we're doing, again, in a very age-appropriate way. We will be meeting as a crisis team on the 25th of this month, so that involves all of the administrators, a number of our clinicians, and public safety, police and fire from both towns are part of our crisis team. One of the things that we'll be debriefing is, what happened in Georgia? Are there lessons that we can learn and look at what we can do here to make Monomoy as safe as we can possibly be? And we've also had, over the last few years, and we'll again do it this year, have a parent meeting on safety that will happen on the 25th as well here in the library that evening. So we'll be putting stuff out to parents, inviting them to come and get that update. All right, on hopefully better news, and I'll correct one mathematical error. So we have 2 school committee meetings before we have our first meeting in October, and those new to the committee in Massachusetts, sort of your October 1 enrollment is sort of like the enrollment that the state goes by. So it's like the point in time that they say, okay, what's the enrollment of a school district this year, compared to last year. But I've had Leah put together preliminary October 1 numbers. I will say here, I noticed that I have a bad formula in the average class size at 2 elementary schools, so I'll correct that. But what you'll see at our elementary schools is the average class size at Chatham Elementary School is 17 students. Average class size at Harwich Elementary School is 18.6 students. So we have class sizes at Chatham Elementary School. We have our first grade cohort was a very small kindergarten cohort last year. So we had a larger than average kindergarten cohort that was sort of an awkward number that was split into two classes of 15. So we have a class, our small group at Chatham Elementary is at 15. Our kindergarten, we only have one section of kindergarten this year at Chatham Elementary, and that's at 20. At Harwich Elementary, we have, our kindergarten classrooms are either 20 or 21, so they're half of each. Our smallest group is in first grade at Harwich Elementary School. They're at 16, and that our grade 3 and 4 are also at 20 at Harwich Elementary School. At the middle school, the average class size is the same as Harwich Elementary School. It's 18.6 is the average. Our smallest classes, and this is after you remove sort of special education classes and sort of like small specials, our smallest classes at Harwich Elementary School are 10 students. Our largest are at 26. So what you would see classrooms of 10 in some of our music sections and some of our world language classes. The class sizes that are 26 and the only class sizes that are that large are some of our wellness classes, gym classes. And then, you know, me being the statistical nerd, if you do a 90%, like what's the envelope that 90% of your classes would fall in, it's between 13 and 24 at the middle school. At the high school, the average is actually smaller, in part because to go put together a really robust, you know, and academically diverse high school schedule, you end up having some small sections and some very large sections, so that the average class size at the high school is 16.6. Our smallest classes, and these are sort of temporarily smallest classes, we have some classes that in the computer right now only have two kids in them for classes that will be meeting next semester. So over time, those will pick up more, but they're in some specialties like an advanced art class or an advanced music class. Our highest classes we have, just the way you put together a high school schedule, there are a couple academic classes here and there that have 29 students in them. Again, that, you know, where does 90% of the classes fall? They fall between 7 and 26, you know, but as I said, the average is that 16.6. So it, you know, the high school will have quite a breadth in terms of different size classes. As a district, it looks like our enrollment is down appreciably from last year, so it looks like we're down about 49 students. Of those, we actually see a bigger drop in Harwich than Chatham, so we're down 8 Chatham students in the preliminary numbers, down 26 Harwich students in the preliminary numbers, and down 15 school choice students. So again, this is preliminary. These aren't the official October 1, but this is where it's going, you know, because like in any year it'll be, you know, my child's in this really large class at the high school, and they may be in a math class that might be large, but there's a good chance other classrooms that they're in English or history may be quite the opposite, so averaged out. The same at the elementary schools. We have, I know that, there might be at Chatham Elementary School, they feel like my kindergarten class is really large. Well, it's pretty much the same size as what you're seeing across the way. And we've tried over the years to have a lot of parity between the class sizes that are happening at the two elementary schools. And usually we'll we'll sort of open school choice or close school choice off to kind of balance it out so that we aren't seeing one elementary school with really large class sizes at a grade level and the other one with really small.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you, Dr. Carpenter. The next item on our agenda is the second reading of the 2024-2025 MRSC goals. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the goals that are in the packet? May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous, it passes. Next up is the approval of donation from the MRHS Key Club to Sharing Kindness. Mr. McMillan.
Good evening, school committee. Michael McMillan, school business manager. It's lovely to see you all again. I have just 3 items for your approval today. The first is this approval of a donation from a high school student activity account. The students have raised funds for Suicide Awareness Fund at Sharing Kindness.
Does anyone have any questions?
Just a question, Mike, so what is this used for? Well, I understand the objective, but
what is Sharing Kindness? Use the funds for to raise awareness. They have, I think it's to raise awareness about mental health to help reduce the risk of suicide. But I think they do a number of things. They have the walk. Is that Sharing Kindness? They have a walk to raise awareness. Group support. Thank you, Joy. Yeah, they support a bunch of different things.
Got it.
Anyone else? Mr. Clark? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand, sorry. Do I have a motion?
So. Second.
I'm confused with that.
I'll make the motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the donation of $500 from the Monomoy Regional High School Student Activity Key Club account to the to the Suicide Awareness Fund at Sharing Kindness.
Second? Second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? It passes.
And thank you. And this is the second item. Oops, sorry, I jumped in the gun.
Oh, go right ahead.
All right. The second item in front of you this evening is another payment that we've received for an invoice relating to FY24, which we've only just received now, and so we need to use FY25 funds to pay for it. That requires your approval.
Steve Bratlon? Would you like a motion? Oh, I thought you had a question. Did you have a question? Okay, yeah, go right ahead.
I move to approve the payment of $1,215 in the FY24 invoices not previously encumbered as presented to the school committee.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
All right, and the final one is disposal of surplus projectors from middle school. So we replaced all the projectors at the middle school with touchscreen TVs at panels. There's one in here somewhere, which they've now already got at the high school and at the elementary school. So the middle school is the final one to make that transition. So we replaced them all at once. So they had started to fail, but they are still working. So if you approve the disposal, then we will try and sell them. And if not, we'll give them to an IT IT equipment recycler, but we'll try and sell them first.
Excellent. Questions? Motion? Jackie?
I move to approve the disposal of 49 projectors and parts from the middle school as presented to the school committee.
Second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Since we are moving the government trip, could I make a request that we all collect these and give them to Leah so she doesn't have to print them again?
Of course.
Save some paper. There we go. So this would be for the,
Oh, yeah, pass them down.
oh yeah, just pass that down. That will save you a bit of printing next time.
Give it to me. We've had the presentation of the warrants. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, meeting's adjourned.
At 7:44?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.